Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the day after the equinox. This is March 21st, a Sunday, and 2021. I love this date, March 21, 2021. And it's my delight to welcome you all here. We have Reverend Celeste Frazier as our guest speaker, which I'll introduce later. It's my delight. She's a classmate of mine from 2006. And we have Alex Richardson, who will be honoring a few women from our church community during this month. Every Sunday, she has been honoring a few different women in our church to just pull them up and give them honor in this special month. And then she'll lead us in a 3-minute meditation. So right now, I'm going to invite you all to take a moment and just, if it's comfortable and safe, shut your eyes and just go within and touch that space where there is no idea of separation. There is only God. There is just one divine spirit right here, right now. That energy is coursing through us, going through us all, uniting us all in the oneness that we all are. So I give great thanks for this beautiful, beautiful day that Spirit has created for our enjoyment. And I step boldly into the mystery of the next moment, knowing it is for my highest good. I know this truth for myself, and I know this truth for each and everyone here within the sound of my voice and beyond. For I know it is a good day. It is God's day. It is our day. And so I'm so delighted that everyone here has joined us today. I know that we are just open to be inspired by Reverend Celeste, and we are going into that deep meditation led by Alex, our practitioner of the day. So I give great thanks. I know that this time together unfolds perfectly, just as it is and just as it is not. I release it into the universe, knowing it is done, and so it is. So now it is Alex who's going to talk about our beautiful, beautiful women in First Church of Religious Science.
Thank you. Today I'm honoring 3 more fabulous women in our church. I figured out as I'm getting these bios in about your life, I realized that our church could start a world. We have a little bit of everything, and it's just wonderful to be reading these bios. So today we will celebrate Karen, Catherine, and Emily before meditation. Yesterday was International Happiness Day. They always have those fun things. So nothing makes me happier to be reading these bios. They're just really nice to get to know somebody on a little deeper level. So I will begin with Karen, our fabulous bookkeeper, who is keeping us afloat during this COVID, but only because everybody is giving to the church. And I so appreciate that. And I thank you for your givings and keep them coming. So I'll start with Karen. This is her story. I joined the Vallejo Church in the early 90s. I was born in Oakland, California. Raised in San Lorenzo, California. It's 40 miles south of here between San Leandro and Hayward. I am a pantologist. I had to look up that word. I'd never heard that word before. So the urban definition is a jack of all trades, one who likes to learn about many different things. And why specialize in one thing when there's so much more you could do? That would be boring. So she's the owner of Kissy Systems. She probably says KISS systems or KIS systems. I don't know, but it's spelled Kissy systems. Accounting and bookkeeping since 1989. And they had a marine sandblasting and painting business previously. I have 3 boys and 1 girl, 21 grandchildren, ages 7 to 30, 3 great-grandchildren. Married Doug in 1982. We were together 40 years and married for 38. Doug and I were co-chairs of the Addington International New Thought Alliance Archives Library and Research Center in Mesa, Arizona for years. We have our own New Thought book collection that exceeds 6,000 volumes. We have numerous very old from the 1800s to the early 1900s that the Library of Congress doesn't have. I'm pretty sure we have the largest collection in the world. She leaves us with this thought: you are what you think about all day long, and you can't have what you don't ask for. Ah, good job, Karen. So now I'm going to do Catherine Spielman. Catherine was born in California and has lived in various cities throughout northern part of the state. Her education centered around caring for others, and she earned a degree in recreation therapy and psychology. She continued that major in graduate school, focusing on the psychological aspect of health. She spent 25 years working as a recreation therapist for Sutter Health, Kaiser, Children's Hospital, Veterans Hospital, and Eden and Laurel Grove hospitals. But God has a way of shaking you awake. It was after a serious injury, confinement in a wheelchair, and losing everything, career, relationship, home, that she realized she was meant to be an entrepreneur with lots of time off to explore the God-given gifts we all have, like intuition, a powerful mind, and the ability to create. She can look back now and see that she never would have come to the realization without the wheelchair adventure. She no longer works in healthcare, but her academic education has not gone to waste because she's using her experience in that field along with her intuition to heal herself. She's been studying the science of mind philosophy since 2006, after she found East Bay Church of Religious Science in Oakland, California. She's been at the Vallejo Church since 2010. So far, 2 fabulous women, and we have one more, Emily Frank. I was born in Delaware, Ohio. I attended Rutherford B. Hayes High School, where I joined every club possible. I was a cheerleader and had major responsibilities at home. I had 3 sisters. I loved playing tennis and cooking. I went to Ohio State University, where I majored in education and was hired by Vallejo Unified School District as a 6th grade teacher in 1969. During my college years, I was a war protester. I marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in protest of racial inequality and joined a group called SUBUD. So it's spelled S-U-B-U-D. And
do your phone.
the nice thing, Kamala, could you turn off your sound, please? Thank you. So anyway, the word is SUBUD, and I think it would be interesting if you looked it up as I did. It's spelled S-U-B-U-D. So and joined a group called Subud, which originated in Indonesia in 1940 and consisted of 2 latihans. I'm learning new words today. Spiritual exercises per week and name changes to correspond with one's inner nature. My names were Hermina, Hassana, and Rokana. The last 2 after I became a Muslim. I joined the Muslim religion because I felt it was the most inclusive in its philosophy. I think I was always looking for religious science. I married another teacher and I had Elizabeth in 1974 and remember feeling the strongest love I have ever felt when I saw her. I went back to teaching when Liz was 6 months old, but resigned after 1 semester and had a daycare center so I could stay home with Liz. I worked for the probation department for 3.5 years before getting my real estate license in 1979. I remarried and moved to Las Vegas, where I got my real estate broker's license and had Zachary in 1984. I got divorced again in 1986 and moved back to Vallejo in 1988. In 1992, I met Dennis. He was a blind date and proposed to him right away as I knew he was the one. We have been married ever since and both are very devoted to the wonderful church. We are blessed with 8 grandchildren and so many close friends, mostly from church. And so it is. So now I'd like to take you into meditation for 3 minutes. So maybe just take a deep breath and just relax. I'll ring the chime to start us, and then I'll ring the chime at the end. And thank you for being here today. So I leave you with today something to think about. It's called Heaven's Door. I was shocked and confused, bewildered as I entered Heaven's Door, not by the beauty of it all and the lights or its decor, but it was the folks in heaven who made me sputter and gasp. The thieves, the liars, the sinners, the judgmental, and the trash. There stood the kid from 7th grade who swiped my lunch money twice. Next to him was my old neighbor who never said anything nice. Herb, who I always thought was rotting away in hell, was sitting pretty on cloud 9. I nudged God and said, "What's the deal? I would love to hear your take. How'd all these sinners get up here? You must have made a mistake. And why's everyone so quiet, so somber? Give me a clue." "Hush, child," God answered. "They're all in shock. No one thought that they'd see you." And I leave you. Amen.
Oh, that was so awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And if I'm lucky, I'm going to pull up another music. So let's see. I want to share our house band. And let's see if I can do this. Oh, come on, Jerry. I had it a minute ago. And I didn't want to interrupt Alex's talk, so I didn't. Let me pull it back up. Give me 1 second, please. I love doing this on the fly. It's going to be worth the wait. I got it.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you, high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up,
So I hope you all enjoyed that. And it is my delight to recognize and introduce my classmate from 2006, Rev Celeste Frazier. Some of you might remember her. She was here at East Bay, Oakland Church, CSL, for a couple of years. And after ministerial school, I first knew that she went back to Chicago. She has now returned to Chicago, and she's doing so many different things. She writes books, she writes podcasts, she does Course in Miracles. She is a miracle. And it is my delight that she is here today speaking to all of us. And her talk title is Her Miracles Spring Forth. And I can't think of a better thing than the day after a spring equinox than her talk. So let's all give a great warm welcome to Reverend Celeste. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Jerry. You are a miracle too.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. And it is my joy to be with Vallejo this morning as we look at this whole idea of spring and vernal equinox. We're looking at something that is expansive. And so the whole concept behind vernal equinox is that the same amount of hours and the same amount of daylight and night at this point. Now, I just happened to find out that really it's off maybe about a few minutes, maybe 3 to 8 minutes, but roughly we've got a lot more daylight than we've been having over the last winter season. And that's not all that that means. So what I want us to be with as we continue to be with opening the eyes of our heart is to know that there's something that's opening up in all of us. And in this whole global theme of timeless wisdom, it's the innate wisdom that is within all of life that we get to witness. Now, those of you there in California are probably already seeing the winter buds breaking open. I don't know if our buds feel safe enough to do that yet here in Chicago because we just had our last snow last week. But here we are in this time where the plants are starting to open up. And as we know, the plants need water, they need light, they need warmth, they need soil. That's why so much happens in the nature realm of the spring, because all of these elements of the divine are necessary for something beautiful to grow. And so we have the stems supporting the leaves and the flowers and the cells in the leaves producing sugar for energy. And the pores let the carbon dioxide enter and let the water and the vapor and the oxygen leave. And there's all this great photosynthesis activity that's happening, and we don't even see it because it's invisible. And so much of the miracles of life are invisible. Even though this is a great time to plant herbs and vegetables and all kinds of nutritious things, it's also a wonderful time to experience a great amount of beauty. We get to put on our springtime clothes. We get to put on some lighter clothes and just be with this whole idea of beauty and expressing. And so what I know is that this is happening all throughout time. This has been happening from ancient times to now, from the time of creation until now. And so what I know is that the science of mind tells us that the children of wisdom look to the inner for justification. That's what Ernest Holmes tells us in The Science of Mind. And we look too far off for miracles when they're happening right inside of us all the time. So wisdom is timeless. It's been intrinsic since before there was any life form. There was this energy of wisdom, that Sophia, that divine feminine that we're celebrating and exalting, particularly during this Women's History Month. For there's so much about women's history that we're still uncovering and still are awakening to, right? And so wisdom is conscious of herself only, though she may dress in many garments, right? She may even show up through men. But what we know about the divine feminine is that she is a co-creator of all that is. And then some say that there is a goddess that really didn't need a male version of itself. But there is a lot of her to know more about. And so what we're knowing is that in this whole idea of wisdom, we can look at the Kabbalah, for example, and think of Chokmah, right? That's the expression of wisdom. And that when you look at the Kabbalah tree, for example, you'll see Chokmah is like a shoulder of Keter, which is the divine mind, right? And Binah is the understanding. And so together, wisdom and understanding support the energy of the divine, which creates a knowledge base. And so what I know with the science of mind is that we are becoming more and more conscious of spirit, not necessarily from all that we see outside of us, although that's apparent too, but that which we're able to grasp from within us. You know, I think that perception, and those are the ideas that we come up with ourselves, are just a bypass that thinks that it can function without the impress of spirit. We have all these opinions about people's politics, about people's race, about people's gender, about people's sexuality. We have all of these perceptions which have nothing to do with wisdom and nothing to do with truth. And the thing is, those things have tended to not only separate us, but have also created a suppression. And women have been suppressed, even though, you know, in Jesus' time, he also enjoyed the company of women as much as he did the company of men. And, you know, a lot of them had issue with that, especially Peter, right? But by the 1st century AD, women were emancipated socially and politically and legally, right? But by the 2nd century, men were complaining about women being aggressive in discussions of literature and mathematics and philosophy, and they ridiculed them for writing. Imagine that. Imagine that perhaps Karen was living at that time and she couldn't exercise her mathematical prowess, or maybe Emily couldn't be the cheerleader that she wanted to be because she was being suppressed, and maybe she couldn't play tennis the way she wanted to, and she certainly wouldn't have been able to protest against racial equality. And I think about, you know, all of these wonderful people like Catherine, who did recreation therapy and has this wonderful intuition and this powerful mind. This has been true for all women throughout time. But still, we have this masculine energy, and this is not male bashing, but we have this masculine energy that is somehow intimidated by this. I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and part of my duties this month is to vote on the different movies and television shows, and many of them I hadn't seen. I didn't even realize that these shows were on in this whole pandemic time. But one of them was called Mrs. America, and it was the story of Phyllis Schlafly. And wow, was she an interesting woman, because she was against the Equal Rights Amendment and fought against it for many years, although she was really working and encouraging other women who were working not to work, to stay in the home and just be happy to be homemakers. And there was such a struggle for so long, particularly in the early 70s. And during this time, you know, women were still being active and teaching and sharing their genius and giving birth to children, and some wanting to have the choice of whether or not to have children, and men continuing to think that they could govern women's choices about their bodies. And so all of this time, ever since this 2nd century Christian kind of suppression happened, there's been this struggle against, you know, women being able to be the miraculous beings that they were created to be, just as men were created to be these miraculous beings, right? And so all of this time, the men were opposed to these women being fully realized, fully expressed. In fact, Timothy wrote that women should learn in silence with all submissiveness. My God, right? Learn in silence. Could you imagine if we couldn't hear from people like Alex, you know, who had all of these wonderful stories to share, right? So we've got Clement, the Bishop of Rome, who wrote to Corinth saying that women are to remain in the rule of subjection to their husbands. Wow. Who could get away with saying that today? Although I'm trying to remember the name. She had a couple of groups. One was Stop the ERA, but she had another group that was really trying to stop women from being fully realized. And so that was just interesting to me because I was looking at this whole thing and like gradually there was like 35 of the 38 United States who were about to pass the Equal Rights Amendment, right? And so, you know, and it happened that Nevada, you know, agreed in 2017, and then Illinois agreed in 2018, and then Virginia, you know, agreed. And so now there's 38 out of 38 states who have agreed to the Equal Rights Amendment, but still there's this whole thing that, well, there was a time limit. And so now some of the women who were in Congress are trying to really just get rid of that whole thing and add women to our Constitution. Just for the first time after 240 some odd years, right? So I just think it's been an interesting way that there's so many miracles that can be birthed. One idea that has been with me for the last couple of days is that we have been talking, particularly in New Thought and in religious science, about treating and having our prayers answered and having the power to do that through our spiritual mind treatment. But I think that so much of our time we've been spending on the mental part and not so much the spirit part, because it is, after all, the science of mind and spirit. And it is the spirit that cannot be suppressed. It is the spirit that cannot be denied. It is the spirit that gives us the wisdom and provokes us to move forward with our lives and encourages us to express it more fully and completely, right? And even though in Genesis 1, there was an androgynous story of creation, Genesis 2 made the female dependent on the male for her very existence. So that in and of itself is interesting because you got two different stories going on. And so the message that is being sent to us is, well, there's a story where you can just be all that you can be. And then there's a story where you're dependent on someone else to be all that you can be. And so while we as clergy are glad to support you in all of your revelations and fulfillments and prayer and absolutely knowing with you and for you in our spiritual counseling, that you can be all that you came here to be, there's an expression of love that wants to happen through each one of us. Right? And so that's what miracles are. They are expressions of love. And, you know, God's voice is expressing love. It's expressing life. It's expressing through our prayers. You know, when we speak our word into the law is the miracle. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about how when we truly accept the allness of God, like the flower accepts the allness of the sun, the allness of the soil, the allness of the warmth, in order for it to expand and blossom and flourish, we too need every ingredient that is available to us to be able to know a greater beauty about ourselves. And so what I know is that miracles are natural. A miracle is a service, right? A miracle is something that God does for us and through us, right? So through miracles, you can rearrange your perception. Through miracles, you can look at a man running through Georgia, killing Asian women in spas, and think, oh my God, I cannot judge him because he is an expression of God. And that was just something I was able to do in the last couple of days, because I was alarmed that this was a place where I would go to feel relaxed. And here there is someone who was going to these spas and killing people. And so I had to come to a meditative place where I was able to know that he too is God, and that I cannot keep him outside of my heart. Because anytime I keep anyone outside of my heart, anytime I judge someone as not being worthy of being in heaven, anytime I judge somebody of not being valuable in this thing called life as an expression of God, then I am doing a disservice to myself. For I am now believing that there's something other than God, right? And so what I'm knowing is that miracles can help us to see things so much differently, that we can't afford to separate in any way each other. Because when we do so, we're out of oneness. And miracles are what help us to know that we're one in God. Miracles are part of the forgiveness that leads to at-one-ment, right? That's absolutely miraculous, because I would be absolutely comfortable staying in my judgment rather than embracing at-one-ment if I weren't so committed to oneness, right? And so a miracle is a universal blessing through me to all. A miracle is a universal blessing through you to all. So when I am in recognition, and I have to be recognizing something before I can realize anything, but when I am in recognition, I am allowing myself to know the allness and the magnificence and the love of God. And when I accept that as my truth, as my essence, as my substance, I can't help but to realize it in my life. I can't help but to move from fear into love. I can't help but to be released from my fear. I can't help but to let God be praised through me in this understanding, in this wisdom of what is really true. Miracles help me praise God through me, right? Miracles help me inspire gratitude, right? When I think about listening to Reverend Jerry talk about his gratitude journal that he does, 5 statements of gratitude every day. Miracles inspire gratitude. If he hadn't caught it in consciousness every morning, then he wouldn't already be taking stock of how blessed his life is, how miraculous his life is on a daily basis. And so miracles give us an opportunity to be thankful for what we are, for who we are. Miracles are intercessions. They get in the way of our false beliefs. They stop us from going down the road of separation, of going down a road of judgment, of going down a road of unforgiveness, of going down a road of us and them, right? And so I get to honor you because the miracle tells me you're lovable. I get to love you because you are an expression of God. I get to know that my mind can be restored to its fullness and not upset about anyone maligning me in any way, hurting me in any way, damaging anyone else I know or anything else of mine. And I get to know that through miracles, I can think in a way that is in alignment with the heart of God, the love of God, the peace of God. And so I'm knowing that I'm mesmerized when I am experiencing a change of thinking. And that's not something that happens mentally. That's something that happens spiritually. And so because miracles are examples of right thinking, because miracles are mechanized by the Holy Spirit, I think we need to give more credit to the Holy Spirit, because it absolutely takes us from one state of mind to a more expansive and enlightened state of mind. Because when we stay in only what I want, only what I need, being the focus of my prayer, I'm leaving myself in a submissive place and not being able to totally explore all that I am. And that's not anyone else doing that to me, except me doing that to me. So I get to embrace the miracle by just touching in to the heart of God, touching in to the awareness of the presence of love, touching in to the miracle that dissolves my errors, that absolutely gets rid of all the unreal thinking, right? And I get to acknowledge everyone as my family. I get to know, as I would for any family member, that I want them to be fully realized, fully expressed, and fully happy in their joy. And so I'm knowing that miracles arise from a miraculous state of mind. They can't come from a mind that is closed. Miracles can't come from a mind that is limited. Miracles can't come from a mind that is in separation. And so I'm accepting that miracles are temporary communication devices. You know, we don't always walk around in a miraculous state of mind, but once we catch it in consciousness, there's something about us that always knows and must always remember about the magnificence of God and its loving power. So I'm knowing that having this miracle as a learning device, as an expression of love, opens me up to so much more. I'm knowing that miracles affirm our rebirth. You know, for people to say, I'm born again, it's not so much about being baptized by water or by oil or by anything external, but it is so much about transcending effects, transcending the body even. And so in this time, as this creative energy springs into being all of this new and beautiful life, we also get to spring into new thoughts and new actions, new activities. We don't have to say, well, everything can't change until January 1st. We have a new season that's before us, a new opportunity to have new thinking, to have new feelings, to let the law work in our lives in a conscious way, by consciously connecting to spirit, by absolutely saying yes to this love expressing through us and as us. And by absolutely being aware that this creative medium doesn't ask questions, it just says yes. There's no inductive reasoning to miracles. You just have to say yes. And there's no why or what or how or who or when. Miracles are just going to happen when they need to happen. And they're not bound by anything but their own nature. It's for us to accept. So if we truly want to grow in God, grow in grace, grow in love, if we really want to use karmic law, and knowing that this karmic law is subjective to the self-knowing mind, that is conscious of the impressions that are happening in the earthly realm as well as in the realm of the spiritual, then it is up to us to say yes to something greater, to love. And so it's a beautiful way for us to know that we can truly be open to possibilities, not just what has been, not just what might be, but to allow ourselves to be the instrument of the miracle that can support it in coming into something magnificent that we've never seen before. And why not use our life as that experiment? Let our lives be the place where we can truly realize something that we've never realized before. Why not we let love reveal something to us and for us, because it wants to, and it does all the time. All we need to do is listen to it, pay attention to it, accept it, own it, embody it, and be it. And so I know that the divine feminine is birthing new visions in my life, and I am in joyful expectancy of her expressions of love. I invite you to say this affirmation with me. I am reawakening to the miracles of wisdom, service, oneness, and love. I am reawakening to the miracles of wisdom, service, oneness, and love. Namaste.
Will you be able to offer us a spiritual mind treatment?
Yes, let us pray.
That was such a beautiful, beautiful talk. So inspiring, so touching.
Oh, it is us who are touched by the presence of God. It is us who are realizing its love. It is us who are saying yes to this love. It is I who am realizing the divine is my nature. Love is my nature. And I say yes to what it needs me to know right here and right now. I say yes to the eternality of life. I say yes to the expansion of life. I say yes to being more love. I say yes to being more light. I say yes to allowing the warmth of all that is to surround me and grow me. I say yes to this wonderful expression of life and love. And I know, as I think about my brother, Reverend Jeff Anderson, that he too is an expansive state of mind as he has shuffled off this mortal coil just yesterday morning, that he is now having his new flight beyond the body temple that was so limiting into an expansive miracle of his greatest yet to be. And so I accept for him ease and grace as he acclimates into that next dimension, and that we truly have a guardian angel and a light being to assist us in our journey moving forward. I bless each of those who are listening to this talk, knowing that something is awakened in each of us. Something has been lit in us, and it is that divine acceptance. We're accepting the divine in each one of us. We're accepting that we are more than we ever thought we could be, and we're willing to simply let God be that expression, that force, that energy that awakens us to being more, to accepting more. And so I know, and I'm grateful to accept this truth, and I lovingly release it to the heart of God as the mind of God acts upon it. Amen. And so it is. Ashe, Aho.
And so it is. So thank you so very, very much. And so I so appreciate that. I'm still in the ethers with your talk. You really took me there. But I want to share an announcement actually too before I open up the community room. So and I've asked Reverend Celeste to join us for a little bit in the community room. So let me pull up, share a screen with you. I share this screen every Sunday because it's important. This is our home. This is our physical home. And while we're online, we have our own spiritual home. We celebrate each other in our hearts. And but to keep our building working and fully functional and available for us when we can regather in person, it's important to be able to pay our monthly bills. So it's helpful when you send your checks in. You can do that through our webpage, firstchurchofvallejo.org, and use online giving at PayPal or your bank bill pay, or the paper way, which is write a check on First Church of Religious Science, 229 Springs Road, Vallejo, California. And or if you're in the neighborhood, drop it in to the mail slot. And then for some of you may know, I'm teaching a class in April. It's a little hard to see this with my screen share. It's called the Art of Abundance. And it's going to be a 4-week class, and it starts the first week of April. I am waiting to the exact time to find out people's preferred time and day and time, so day of the week. Monday through Friday, and what time, morning or evening. So send an email to me at reverendjerry@hotmail.com, revjerry@hotmail.com, if you're interested in the course. And I'll be wrapping it up and sending out a notice to everybody probably the end of this week. I'll announce it next Sunday. And having said all that, I'm going to end the Facebook share and also the recording and open up the thing, community room. Everybody can unmute them.